Further in depth on this story, the aforementioned Alan Dershowitz. Also, you see him here on Newsmax TV on You and the Law. He has a new ebook coming out Monday. The title, Terror Tunnels, the Case for Israel's Just War Against Hamas. Alan, we thank you for spending part of your Friday with us here on America's Forum.
Well, thank you so much. In fact, you can actually get the book on Kindle and iBooks starting today. And it's really, really inexpensive. So if anybody wants to really read my views on what was going on in the world with ISIS and Gaza and Hamas, there's an ebook out there, and thanks for having me on.
You bet. Alan, let's get right to it. Is ISIS America's Hamas?
Yes, I think it is. ISIS is an extremist Islamic organization that doesn't play by the rules, that is prepared to behead Americans, that's prepared to smuggle Americans and Europeans into America with evil intentions on their mind. The only difference, of course, is that ISIS is much further away from the United States than Hamas is from Israel, but they use the same tactics. And I predict soon ISIS will borrow Hamas's tactics of using human shields. Remember, they have captured a lot of hostages, innocent people, and they're going to start embedding their soldiers, their fighters, among these hostages. So instead of beheading Americans, they're going to take Americans and they're going to hold them in front of their soldiers and say, ha, you can't get at us unless you're prepared to kill innocent civilians, which is exactly what Hamas has been doing for the last 10 years.
Alan, let's listen into some of what President Obama had to say to the nation the other day, and then we'll get your feedback. Let's take a listen.
First, we will conduct a systematic campaign of airstrikes against these terrorists. Working with the Iraqi government, we will expand our efforts beyond protecting our own people and humanitarian missions so that we're hitting ISIL targets as Iraqi forces go on offense. Moreover, I've made it clear that we will hunt down terrorists who threaten our country wherever they are. That means I will not hesitate to take action against ISIL in Syria as well as Iraq. This is a core principle of my presidency. If you threaten America, you will find no safe haven.
Alan, you made the point that ISIS could be America's Hamas. We hear from President Obama, and it sounds like echoes of Israeli Prime Minister Benjamin Netanyahu. Is that fair?
It's exactly the same thing. Netanyahu has said we will hunt down terrorists wherever we find them. And as you know, they have gone after terrorists in Qatar. They have gone after terrorists in Europe. And they started, as United States started, with an air campaign to destroy the missiles. Ultimately, of course, Israel had to put boots on the ground because of the terror tunnels. I was in one of those terror tunnels. I know how dangerous they were. If we had tunnels coming into the United States from Mexico, from Canada, hypothetical, obviously, there's no doubt we would put boots on the ground to destroy those tunnels.
Wait, the sad fact is, Alan, the sad fact is we do have tunnels coming in from Mexico.
Lead, like any democracy would do. And the point is, why criticize Israel when it's doing what you support when your own country or other countries are doing it?
Alan, the sad fact is we do have tunnels coming into this country from Mexico. So the point is perhaps we ought to have boots on the ground because we are concerned about ISIS and others coming into our nation. Taking a look back to what is happening in the Middle East, our Secretary of State spent some time in Iraq. And of course, internationally, America is trying to assemble a new coalition. You say many of the moderate Arab countries he's recruiting are some of the same people denouncing Israel for actions against Hamas. How can we reconcile the two?
Well, don't try to reconcile it. It's not logical, obviously. When your own ox is being gored, when your own country is being threatened, you're willing to apply a different standard than you are when a neighboring country is being threatened. And so you see Saudi Arabia supporting the United States, actually behind the scenes it supported Israel also in its war against Hamas, but it would never say so publicly. But other countries as well. I mean, Iran may be working with the United States, and I sure hope that that doesn't diminish our interest in making sure Iran doesn't develop nuclear weapons, because as somebody said, Hamas may be ISIS may be a 5-year problem. Iran with a nuclear bomb is an eternal problem. So we have to get our priorities straight also. What everybody has to worry about when you have a lame duck president who has only a few years left to his term is that he will want to end his term effectively and not care as much about what happens after his term is over. That's what some people fear about Obama that he will mortgage the issue of Iran, which is a longer-term issue, to getting a good short-term solution for ISIS. I hope that won't happen. I don't think it will happen, but there is a risk or a possibility it could happen.
Speaking of succession in the presidency and turning our attention to one of your former students at Harvard Law, Texas Senator Ted Cruz, speaking at the Middle East Christian Conference in Washington earlier this week when he was actually booed off the stage for defending Israel.
Yeah.
We have a clip of the event from the Daily Caller, which was taken by somebody in the crowd. Let's take a look, listen to it, and then get your comments.
Sure.
I will say this, I am saddened to see that some here, not everyone, but some here, are so consumed with hate that you cannot address your brother. I will say this.
You speak for yourself.
If you will not stand with Israel and the Jews,
No.
then I will not stand with you. Thank you, and God bless you.
Alan, surprising in some quarters. Are you surprised by the reception Senator Cruz received there?
I'm not surprised by anything. Of course, I know Ted. He was my student, and although I disagree with him on a great many domestic issues, he's a man of great principle, and he showed principle. And I wrote him a note congratulating him on his display of principle by walking out on those bigots. I mean, here are people who are Christian Arabs. They're being murdered by ISIS. They support the United States going after ISIS. But when it comes to standing with another democracy, Israel, which has done more for Christians in the Middle East than any other country in the world, they express bigotry. And I'm proud of Senator Cruz for walking out on them. He should have done that. And we can continue to disagree on, Medicare and other kinds of things, or Obamacare. But I'm going to support Ted Cruz when he deserves to be supported, and I'm going to support any Republican or any Democrat when they do the right thing in terms of American policy toward Israel, or any other time they do the right thing. That's the kind of political person I am. I don't decide whether to praise or condemn people based on their party affiliation, but on what they've done and what they've said. And Ted Cruz deserves congratulations for his courageous act of walking out on those bigots.
About 2 minutes and 30 seconds remain, Alan. Just one other note on what is going on in terms of foreign policy and national security. Definitions are important. Semantics are important. In a recent interview, Secretary Kerry did not describe what is going on against ISIS as a war. Did that undermine the president?
Well, it is a war, and we ought to be seeking congressional approval for it. We've gone to war in the past without seeking congressional approval. It's generally not worked out all that well. We're going to get some sort of congressional approval in terms of either financial support or something else, but it would be much better if the president sought and obtained approval for what essentially will be a long-term war.
About 1:30 remains before we go. I understand you have an interesting twist on the whole Oscar Pistorius case from South Africa.
Yeah, I'm going to do an op-ed for Newsmax on it. I think it was an absurd verdict. If he was not guilty of murder, if he honestly believed that there were home intruders in his bathroom, armed intruders, he surely should have had the right to do what he did. And the best proof that the judge's decision was wrong is, according to the judge's decision, if he had shot into the bathroom and had killed armed intruders, he would still be guilty of culpable homicide, because it doesn't matter who was actually in the bathroom. It was his own state of mind, and she said his state of mind was culpable at that moment, even though he believed that there were armed intruders in the bathroom. It's an absurd and dangerous result, and it will be reversed on appeal, I predict.
Comparative judiciary, the South African system, still very different from America, correct?
Yeah. You expect more of them because they have a professional judge rather than a jury. Juries sometimes in America come out with compromised verdicts, but judges aren't supposed to come out with compromised verdicts. If, in fact, he believed that there were intruders in that bathroom, he had a perfect right to defend his family and his home and his own life from those intruders. So it's the wrong decision.
Well, maybe the wrong decision here. Obviously, Alan, you're hoping those watching will make the right decision and get a copy of your new ebook, Terror Tunnels, the case for Israel's just war against Hamas. Alan, thanks again for your time here on America's Forum.
Thank you. Be well.
Alan Dershowitz with his take. What's yours? Why don't you tweet me your comments at Newsmax TV, #America's Forum. And I'll be right back after this.